think that one of the most helpful distinctions between advanced conversational hypnosis and traditional approaches to coaching, NLP, hypnotherapy is the distinction between root cause and unconscious payoff. Most other modalities will teach you to look for the root cause. And so sometimes this will take the shape of trying to understand it just very logically. Like, well, what is driving this behavior? Okay, let's analyze that. Let's think of the core driving motivators. Think like the Tony Robbins style of 6 human needs. Like that's a one approach of looking at the root cause through a motivational lens. Other times they will try to go back to an original event, like that type of root cause that developed the problem that the client is coming to you with in the first place. So if somebody has a fear of flying, there might have been an original event in their life that they were on a plane, they were a child, there was a lot of turbulence, they were scared, their parents were freaking out. And so a very traditional approach would say to go back to that moment through a regression or a similar technique to get them to experience it again, perhaps in a different way, and to heal from it. What I want to do in this video is explain a different approach to that same question of why do problems exist? Because the root cause angle is one perspective. But I think that the unconscious payoff one is the perspective that can bring actual results to your clients. And I just want to explain it by contrast. So root cause is in the past, whereas the payoff is in the present. The root cause is answering the question, what happened in the past that created this problem? In my perspective, you do not need to know this to solve their problem. It will often come up, and the majority of the time, clients will be fully aware of what it was anyway. So it's not like it will be this big exploration to finally find this thing. There might be layers or emotions deep in there, packed away, associated to this root cause, but in my opinion, you don't need to know this at all. The unconscious payoff is in the present, and it answers the question, why does this person's unconscious mind still keep doing this? And that's a very different thing. It can become very clear why somebody in the past had a traumatic experience on a plane, and now they're carrying this trauma. The much more interesting question is, why do they still hold on to it? What is it that the unconscious mind today sees as valuable in holding on to it? What strategy is the unconscious mind employing that requires this fear of flying to still exist? Especially given the fact that the unconscious mind isn't stupid. It's aware that this happened a long time ago in the past, but there is some meaning that the unconscious mind created around that story and around those events that is affecting its current strategy. And that current strategy might not even be related to the original motivations at all. So to give an example, someone with the fear of flying who had the traumatic thing happen to them when they were a child might still be holding on to it because in the present, their fear of flying is what keeps them feeling connected to their mother who passed away. And to let go of that traumatic response to them in the present moment might feel like they are abandoning their mother. And that's the only thing that they're holding on to. And so from the perspective of addressing a session kind of around the payoff with that specific example, you would want to offer to that client's unconscious mind, not force it, not tell them this is what you have to do, but to bring it up almost casually. It's like, what if there was a way for you to still feel connected to your mother and to even feel more connected to her and the parts of her that are more worth remembering and be okay with flying? And you might be hearing that question and asking yourself, what in the world type of coaching or hypnotherapy question is that? It's the type of question that I think actually gets people results if you've found the right payoff. Now, the interesting thing is that you don't even need to directly identify the unconscious payoff, but you just need to be aware of the fact that there is something that's keeping them attached to the problem today, not just in the past. From my perspective, real change work happens when a client gets choice again. And choice is reintroduced when the unconscious mind is no longer tied or attached to the payoff that it's been attached to. Now, sometimes the payoff dissolves on its own when it realizes how absurd it is. So for example, with the client who is attached to the fear of flying because they view it as a way of being close to their mother. just bringing awareness to that might be enough for some people to say, you know what? Yeah, that's silly. That's absurd. I'm totally fine flying now. That type of quick response, once the unconscious payoff has been identified, is extremely common. And when it happens that spontaneously, there's often a lot of like release of emotion, oftentimes even a lot of laughter because they realize how absurd it is. Or there might be a lot of tears and emotion of like, wow, I'm realizing just how much I must have loved her if that was the reason why I was holding on to this. Sometimes, however, your client's unconscious mind is unwilling to let go of that payoff until you offer it a different payoff. Similar to imagine holding on to one rope and being unwilling to let go of that one, no matter how much it's burning your hands up holding on to it, until another rope has been offered. And it might make sense to let go of it and trust that anything must be better than that, right? But sometimes the unconscious needs a new strategy, a new perspective before it's willing to let go. And this is where you offer another one. Like I was saying earlier, just even the question of like, what if there was another way for you to feel connected without having to have this fear of flying? It gets their mind thinking along those lines. And it might be helpful to offer specific recommendations like, well, tell me more about her. How else might you be able to carry on her legacy or feel connected with her or carry her with you besides this fear? And so normally I strongly recommend against telling your clients what to do. This is different. It's not telling them what to do. It's offering ideas to the unconscious mind. And once it latches onto one, it does not mean that it's going to settle on that. It's merely enough to let the unconscious mind let go of the rope that it's been sliding down and burning its hands on for the last 20 years. Sometimes just seeing and understanding what the unconscious payoff was that's keeping them attached in the present moment is enough to resolve the issue on its own. Other times you need to offer a new idea and is able to grab onto that and then let go. And then from there, the unconscious mind can keep on grabbing new ropes, and that's what we call processing. But then other times, the conversation will take on a much more indirect shape, where you might not even fully identify what that unconscious payoff was. But you're talking about flying. Suddenly, a lot of emotions around their mother comes up. You start talking about the fact that she passed away. They're processing some emotions. You see a lot of unconsciousness in their responses while talking about it. And then you go back to the presenting problem of the fear of flying, and you notice that there's a little bit more of a looseness to it. They don't seem as attached. And then you carry on the session, maybe untie a couple of logical knots that they were stuck in. Then one thing leads to another, and they say, you know what? I don't fully know what it was, but I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready to get on that plane. And you might do the testing, have a processing chat like we talk about, and then they're good to go. In that type of scenario, you'd be able to say, okay, I feel like the unconscious payoff was something related to this client's mother. But what exactly it was tying to it in the first place doesn't matter. And even with the previous examples that I gave, those would just be best guesses. And so you can see, based on this explanation, why the majority of the time it's much easier to just teach the good old root cause approach. But if you want to go beyond that, start thinking in terms of not just what happened in the past, but what kind of convoluted, unconscious associations has this client developed in the present, and how can I start playing with that now? The question that I have in the back of my mind that helps kind of guide this is, yeah, I get why this developed, but what is the unconscious mind still holding on to? If that's all you take away from the video for now, fantastic, and I hope that this helps you in your sessions.